So last week I started this Ajitha Sutta. This discourse comes in a very ancient text, which is called parayanavagga in Pali, the way to beyond, yeah, to the far shore. So this idea that we are stuck in samsara in this side, and if you go across, then you have ended all suffering and you are extinguished. So it's quite deep suttas in that whole chapter. All these students, there's 16 students, Brahmins, who come to see the Buddha and ask questions, and they're all related into this idea of going beyond, yeah, to ending all suffering. They're very keen, yeah, they're very, very keen. Even though they're Brahmins, they had this idea of Nibbana. Even though they didn't know exactly what it is, they had an idea of somehow, making an end to this suffering, difficulties, this life after life, going and traveling in samsara. They had an idea of wanting to make an end to it. And even in the scriptures, apparently, there was the idea of somebody called Buddha, like somebody who's awakened, Bunjati. Yeah, Bunjati means to be awaked. So they even knew there would be a Buddha arising in the world. And so they seem to have had quite a bit of understanding about some of these things already. When you hear the questions, you can see how much wisdom they already had, but they was missing some bits, which is why they come to meet the Buddha. They are the students of a Brahmin called Bhaveri who lived south of India. I made a mistake last time. I said Mumbai. No, it's from the south of India. They traveled a long way and to see the Buddha and ask these questions. So the first student, his name is called Ajitha. So these are the Ajitha's questions. So I'm not going to go through the origin story or anything like that again, but just going to start from where I left off. And I only did like the first point, which is I'll read the first verse, but in the first verse, I only did one idea of that first verse. So I'll say it in because I have a printout today. It's beautiful in Pali as well. Kena su nivato loke, kena su napakasati, kisabi lepanam brusi, kim su tassa mahabhayam. Translates as, what is the world obstructed? Said Venerable Ajita. Because of what does it not shine? By what is it smeared? What is its greatest fear? So the Buddha's answer goes like this. The Buddha says, Avijjaya nivuto loko, vivicha pamadanapakasati, japa bhilepanam brumi, dukkhamassa mahabhayam. The world is obstructed by ignorance, replied the Buddha. Stinginess and negligence make it not shine. It is smeared by wishful prayer. Suffering is its greatest fear. So out of those two verses or set of questions and set of answers by the Buddha, I only got to the first line, which is by what is the world obstructed? And the Buddha's answer, the world is obstructed by ignorance. So we spent quite a bit of time last week understanding what is this ignorance. So again, I'm not going to really repeat it, but part of that ignorance, as we saw, is this idea that we have of a being, a sense of self. I am, right? This thing. And even this was very big in the Brahmanical teachings. The idea of I am is there. So the sense of self or an Atman, yeah, something that is lasting is there. That was what they thought. So this is still the big delusion, the sense of self. And even though no matter how much Dhamma we hear, when you wake up in the morning and when you're brushing your teeth, who do you see in the mirror? Me, right? Who is listening to this Dhamma talk? It's me. Who is understanding what is being said? It is me. Yeah. So all of these things, just it's not that easy just to not intellectually to understand it. So we still take this sense of self that we feel and use that until we come to the realization that it is only a bunch of conditions. So while we are here, while we are still under this delusion, when we have this sense of self, the feeling of me, then it is unavoidable to have wants, right? Even when a little baby is born, it cries, right? For milk, it's hungry. It needs warmth, it needs comfort, it needs love, needs many things, even just born, right? So little, don't understand much, but already wanting, craving is there. It comes already from the past. That's what it got itself born in the first place, got itself a new birth, a new body, a life. That was also from craving. And from that point onwards, only craving grows. The more we get to know, the more we crave. When we were really little, our mom just shoved things in our mouth we don't know. Not even tasty things, right? When the kids are like, when babies, you don't even put salt, there is no sugar, really bland kind of food, but they don't know anything. So all they know is those things. So they open their mouth and they eat it. Later on, they get introduced to, food cooked with salt and all these other sauces and sugar. And after that, can you ever give them bland food? No way, right? So it's how you can see how when we get exposed to new things, when we experience new things, when we read reviews about new things, how our desires and cravings escalate, right? The whole life, how we build up desires, cravings, wants of all different sizes, right? All different intensities. Some are very basic, just to keep ourselves alive. Why do we even breathe? Right? We are not even conscious of our next breath, but there still is craving behind it. Yeah, that's when we are grasping for breath, when we are faced with death and things. You can see sometimes how much we gasp for the last breath. So, so wanting to exist, wanting to experience, and all of these things, this want comes together with the delusion, this ignorance. So when we want things, yeah, that is when stinginess, yeah, stinginess comes in. It's interesting that the word the Buddha used here is, what's the Pali word? Is vivicha, yeah, vevicha, vevicha. So some people translate this as greed. Some translators use it as stinginess. So, but together with Ajahn Brahmali, we did a bit of research, and the actual meaning should be really stinginess, which is more powerful than greediness, right? Because somebody can be greedy without being stingy, but somebody who's stingy is definitely greedy as well, right? So just my chocolate cake similes again. If you are somebody who like chocolate cake or something that you like to eat, let's say. So you can say, like to eat is one thing. How do you know whether you're greedy about it? That is when you serve yourself about 3 pieces, right? Then that is because you're greedy. You like is 1 piece, you eat it, appreciate it, that's okay. But if you're greedy, you want not one, you want quite a few of that. That's still okay, as long as you're willing to share the rest of the plate. But if you're stingy, what do? You want to hide, right? Take the whole plate, take it away. You don't want to share it with anybody because you want everything only for yourself. Because you're greedy, excessively greedy, and you don't want to share and you want to keep it to yourself. So this is stinginess, yeah? So why does not our mind? So in here, world, yeah, the idea of the loco, in the Buddha's definition, the loka is not just this planet Earth. You can take that meaning, but much more powerful is the world of our mind, yeah, the mind, our senses, our experiences, what we have contacted, the world that we have contacted through our senses. That is the only world we know, right? The only world we know of is the world that we have somehow contacted by our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and even mind by reading about something. So I may have not gone to Antarctica, but if I've read a article or seen a documentary, then I have contacted with some senses, not fully. So then I might have an awareness about that. That becomes part of my world, sensory world, yeah, sensory world. And this mind, world of the mind, is the important part. So this ignorance is also not like a darkness outside, not like when it becomes dark at night. This is the darkness of the mind, yeah. The darkness comes from the defilements. So in the same way, how this is not shining, our minds are told to be very bright and shiny. Pabassara chitta is the word that the Buddha used. Yeah, the mind's naturally bright and shining. And this is what sometimes we get in contact with when we meditate. Sometimes people say, oh, I have really bright light. I see, I perceive, but it is no external light. It is just the brightness of one's own mind. The mind is naturally very bright. And when in meditation, when the hindrances subside temporarily, you can perceive the mind, yeah, as bright. But, apart from, when the hindrances are just, when the hindrances are present, then it is covered. So one of the biggest hindrances that covers the mind so that the mind does not shine is this stinginess. That is one of them. So stinginess includes the desires, the cravings, the wants, and much more of hoarding and not wanting to share all of those feelings, which we have, yeah. Each one of us have for various different things. You might not have a big deal with chocolate cake, but you might have something else that is more important. Yeah, you may not want to share. Some people it might be knowledge. Some people it might be your plants. Some people it might be your family members. Whatever it is, stinginess is there in an unenlightened mind, and this is what does not allow our mind to shine. So quite powerful to think about it. So stinginess is the biggest form, but also when it comes to just even little wants, yeah, just a little want. Right now, if you think I could do with a nice cup of coffee or some nice juice or something, just even that simple want, oh, it's too hot, I need some air or some cooling, or I need to change my clothes, whatever it is, yeah, or I need to adjust the way I'm sitting. All of these, even little wants, even that disturbs our mind. Yeah, it does not allow then the mind to shine. So much more are these very strong desires and the stinginess that comes with it. So quite powerful to understand. So when there is this delusion, together with it comes this strong desires, because there is the sense of self. And then the next thing that doesn't allow our mind to shine is negligence. Yeah, appamada. No, not apamada, pamada. Pamada, yeah. Pamada means negligence. You are not, yeah, so you are not striving to get the hindrances down, make the mind shine, yeah, get some mindfulness and wisdom happening. When we are not doing that, yeah, then we are in negligence. So the negligence, what what do we do when we are in negligence? Yeah, we are guided by greed, hatred, and delusion. The lobha, dosa, moha. These are called the akusala mula, or the root defilements. Yeah, all other things, jealousy, avarice, all kinds of things come out from these main three things. So whatever way that we train our mind, not train, use our mind. And when these defilements grow, then we are in negligence. We are heedless. Yeah, we are in the darkness. We are very good at maintaining ourselves in the darkness. That's what we have been doing for many eons, many lifetimes, which is why we are still here. Yeah, we're still here because we are experts in negligence. We are experts in keeping ourselves in the darkness, keeping our hindrances going. So we constantly have desires, but what is the other side of the coin of desire? Is anger, ill will, negativity. Yeah? When our desires are challenged, taken away, or we can't have them, comes the anger, ill will, negativity. And when we harbor desires and ill will, take turns, we get really exhausted. The mind is really exhausted. This is the modern mind of people in the modern world, constantly with the digital things, constantly increasing our desires, or look at things that brings up anger and negativity. And throughout the day, that is how you entertain yourself. And then as a result, the mind is very tired, very, very tired. Yeah, lazy, very constricted, dark, depressed, no energy kind of mind. So the third hindrances is there then. And then together with that, it's related. Yeah, the restlessness and worry comes together. Yeah, when you're especially low energy, you're confused, don't know what's happening. And all those impressions of desires and negativity, all of that leads to that restlessness and worry. So the fourth hindrance is there. And that confusion is leading to also doubt. You don't understand what is going on. Even the Buddha's teachings does not make any sense when the mind is in that state, right? You can see sometimes I see people come to the monastery, and when you offer a Dhamma talk, some people you can see they're just looking at the watch, waiting to go. Nothing goes in. They can't make sense of things. And they look really tired. Yeah, when the mind is really, really tired, really confused, even the Dhamma does not go in. Dhamma does not make any sense. So they have lots of doubts about things as well. So hindrances are kept, and this is how that darkness is there, and the mind does not shine. So all of our activities. So how is again these hindrances are kept up? When we do ayoniso manasikara, yeah, unwise attention. Unwise attention is what keeps up all the hindrances. So when we attend to any experience in an unwise way, hindrances are kept up. The opposite of this is yoniso manasikara. So when we attend wisely, on the other hand, then the hindrances are suppressed or go down, and in its place comes the spiritual faculties or the bojjhangas, the enlightenment factors. The two don't really exist together quite. So they're because they're opposites. So we can see, how. So any time we attend to the world unwisely, ayoniso manasikara, then we are also heedless. Because people ask, how do we become diligent or heedful? Yeah, and not negligent. And that is whenever we make the effort to do yoniso manasikara, whenever we become skilled in turning our mind and learn how to attend into anything in a skillful way, then we are not negligent. Yeah, we are not ignorant. Then when we attend in a wise way, the mind goes into brightness. The simple example, yeah, always I bring this up, but I have to tell it many times before it really sinks inside and that you actually start doing this. So even you have heard this many times before, I'm going to say it again to explain, and also for anybody who has not heard this before. So this very, very common experience, day-to-day experience in our life, yeah, when we are experiencing something that is difficult, that is bringing up negative mind states. So I usually take up the difficult person in our life. All of us have somebody, right? Somebody, most of us have somebody who sort of press our buttons, so to speak. Yeah, we get triggered, at the very least, gets a bit annoyed. Sometimes it's much more than annoyance. It goes to irritation, anger, or even rage if we are not careful. But this is like the experience. So just when we are in the presence of this person who is saying or doing or something that what we think is not right, not good, not fair, hurtful, harmful, right? So this is when our annoyance, irritation starts. So when this person is doing, when we are going through this experience, when we are attending into judging, saying this is wrong, this is bad, they shouldn't do that, how dare they do this. This is one way of attending. And this is a unwise way of attending, because when we attend like this, anger, ill will, and negativity is kept up in our mind. I'm sure we are all familiar with this, right? Even a whole day and a night, maybe many days sometimes, we keep bringing this up. They shouldn't have done that. This is not fair. This is not wrong. And when that kind of thing keeps going on and on and on in our mind, anger, irritation is kept up. So this is how that hinders. And we are negligent because we are attending unwisely. So it may be true what they're doing is wrong, what they're doing is hurtful, what they're doing is harmful, whatever that is. But attending in that way and bringing up anger, irritation is not going to help the situation. Help yourself, help the other person, or anybody else. Only anger, irritation, and negative mind states just prevail. That's all. And the mind is in the darkness and you don't even see what can be done. But on the other hand, when the same thing is happening, after listening to the Dhamma, after understanding, after practicing, if you have enough mindfulness to recognize, this is the black snake, these are the black snakes in the black snake story, right? Black snake situations that trigger anger, for example, in this occasion. If you remember, causes and conditions. Why? Why is this person doing this and saying that? Different inquiry. Yoniso Manasikara is looking for the root causes, yeah? Causes and conditions that gives rise to something. So you come up with understanding, right? So when you ask the situation, why are they doing this? Then you will know, well, they're conditioned by their past. This is the Buddha's teachings. When you apply the teachings, you know we are all conditioned by our past. This is the non-self teaching of the Buddha. Yeah, everything that we do, even your choice to come to this Dhamma talk, has been conditioned, yeah, by the past. It feels like I decided to come and listen. I opened the Zoom, I clicked it. I chose to be here. But that choice, even that choice, a wholesome choice, is conditioned. All of these things are conditioned. We have been conditioned to do many things, the opposite also. But with mindfulness and right view, when those two grow, we are more biased to do the more skillful, the more wholesome. So this is how we go. But somebody who is doing something that is unskillful, clearly hurtful, harmful, unfair, yeah, something like that, clearly that person does not have enough mindfulness, not right mindfulness anyway, and not right view. Yeah, there's problems with their views. And that is the world. People have do so many different views. We take up our views, yeah. So we are also full of many wrong views. So with these wrong views and not having enough mindfulness, what do you expect from the world? Yeah. So when we actually look or are able to attend with Yoniso Manasikara, understanding causes and conditions, we have a different response. So it's not only understanding that people are conditioned to do even the stupid things that they do, including ourselves, but we also know from the Buddha's teachings, from right view, that we are the owners of our intentional actions. We have to reap the consequences. We can't say any excuses, yeah, that I didn't have right mindfulness, I didn't have right view, that's why I did that stupid thing. That's not how things work. Yeah, so this is the dangerous thing about samsara. So when we understand the karmic consequences of any unskillful actions by body, speech, and mind, then we realize, my goodness, this person, they don't have enough mindfulness, they don't have right view, and they are doing these things that are difficult, unskillful, harmful, yet they have to reap the consequences. So if you're wise enough, if you understand this really well, where the more and more you understand the conditionality of this whole process, the natural response to that is compassion. So anger, irritation is now replaced by compassion. Recently, there was a group of people here. Actually, it was a very lovely occasion where we got in touch with some of the local meditators. This was the Baural Insight Meditation Group who came here, and we were having a little Dhamma discussion. And one person asked, I can do some, compassion and metta to many people, but how about to people like, you know, some political leaders? I don't want to mention the names. He did mention the name of the person he had the most issue. I'm sure you all know who he probably spoke about. He said, but how can you have compassion for such people? But if you do this reflection, you understand they are in complete darkness. Yeah, they are guided by these strong defilements. They have very wrong views, yeah, that they have taken on board, and guided by these very dangerous, wrong views rooted in all these unwholesome roots, yeah, greed, hatred, and delusion, sense of self, and all of these things. They are doing things. They may be even coming from a good place. Who knows? They might be having in their own way, doing something they think is good for everybody. So big is the delusion, right? They can't see. Sometimes even little child might see what they're doing, but they can't see. Yet, think for a moment, if they do more harm, what are the karmic consequences? Where are they going next life? Yeah, and you feel like that. I hope if you have enough understanding, enough wisdom, the response will be when having compassion for such difficult people. Not saying, yes, they deserve it, they need to be punished. Rather, you understand, actually, this is the danger. But according to the Buddha, the way he was telling, how we too have been traveling in samsara. We too have done all these things. We have also been murderers and rapists and robbers and all kinds of criminals. But we have also been really good people, ascetics, practitioners, really compassionate beings as well. So long is our journey in samsara. So we too have done all kinds of things in the past. So, so these people are now at that point. They may have also been good people, even for a moment. Think about people, somebody who becomes a political leader of a country, also must have some good karma, right? To be in a powerful place, to be, have that kind of authority over a whole country. And some of these people also have quite a lot of wealth, you know, even gained in a good way or bad way, but they still have it. Yeah. So these are coming, they're probably not using it wisely, like eating old food, but still, that shows they may have also done some incredibly good, powerful things some time ago. And then you come up with the wrong view. That is why the Buddha says the most dangerous thing is the wrong view. Even if you are a serial killer or whatever kind of difficult person, done terrible things, if you're able to understand the right view, you can stop, forgive, and turn around. Yeah, as long as right view, you're open to right view. But if you're close to right view and if you're really strongly holding on to wrong view, no possibility of turning around. You're in real danger. Yeah. So when we think like that, when we reflect like that, we see the bigger picture, not just one life, not just the immediate few lives, but when we see this big journey in samsara of people, ourselves included, yeah, then the response, the natural response will be compassion, compassion to all beings, including myself. So this is the kind of compassion that the Buddha had, that Buddha's Mahakaruna, right? The great compassion of a Buddha. Because the Buddha can see the eyes of the Buddha, the wisdom eye can see the journey of people, the past lives of people, how they have traveled and where they're heading as well. Imagine if we saw that, yeah? If we saw that, how much compassion would come. So this is how it is, and we can develop this kind of understanding even just by reflecting according to the teachings, according to what we can even see ourselves. And sometimes in our own meditation, we get some more insights into this. And as we apply this, we learn to look into the world. Yeah, we see the world from a different point of view, from a different angle, from a different lens called right view. Yeah, so this is when we see the world through right view, then the way we attend is wise. Yeah, so that is how we attend wisely into any matter. So the difficult person was just an example, just to show how you wrongly attend into a thing. So the negative mind states, unwholesome mind states prevail, or the same thing, but you change your angle, change the way you look, you take up the right view glasses and you look through that, and it's a whole different experience. And you can see in place of irritation, anger, ill will, what happens when compassion comes up. Yeah, compassion is a bright state, high energy state. Yeah, the mind then shines. So you can see how whenever we are negligent, whenever we are attending unwisely, we are in the darkness. Our minds can't shine. Yeah, it is smeared, covered in these hindrances. It's quite powerful to understand this. Yeah, quite powerful to understand. And a lot of it is coming because of our sense of self. Yeah, me and other selves, yeah, other beings who we take personally. Yeah. Instead of seeing them as conditioned processes, we just take people personally and have an issue with this. This is when the things become bigger. So the more peace we have in our mind, and then we do these reflections, slowly, right view starts to build up. As we do this, then we are not negligent. Our minds then starts to come out from the darkness into brightness, yeah, and it starts to shine. So, and the next thing is kissa abhilepanam brusi. So, abhilepana. Yeah, abhilepana. Lepana means something sticky, glue kind of thing. Yeah, something that you apply, gooey kind of thing. Yeah, what is the sticky thing? What is the mind smeared by? Yeah, even the student who asked this question understood, right? It's great. It's amazing that he understood that the mind is in the darkness. It's not shining. It is smeared by something, and that something, the Buddha says, Jappa bilepanam brusi. Now, this is really interesting, this word jappa. And the Buddha also has a really good wit. Yeah. He also used puns. He was the first, he was a good pun. Punner, is that what you call somebody who gives out good puns? So he used, in an appropriate way, because these were Brahmins. Yeah. And what do Brahmins do? They do this praying. Yeah. Praying is called jappa. Yeah. And also, so there is the jappa and jappa. So one is long A, one is short A. So one means the praying, the other one means longing, yeah, desire. They go together as well, because also often people pray to get things, right? I praying to get a job, praying to have uh, good health, praying. Even people ask us, please pray for my child to get the job. Please pray for my mother to get better. Yeah, this is the idea of praying for many people, right? Praying with the longing. So really interesting. So japa means also just praying itself, but also desire, yeah, wanting, longing. Um, so it's kind of interesting. So the Buddha used this because in other places, in the normal, the main Nikayas, main suttas, the Buddha used desire, yeah, Nandi or Tanha or Raga. Those are the more common words that Buddha used for craving or desire. But here, he used it as a pun, japa, yeah, praying. Also, just to show for the Brahmins, it's also your praying, constantly praying for things, constantly wanting things. Even spiritual goals cannot be achieved by praying, right? Just by praying, you can't get enlightened. Just by praying, you don't get purified with your mind. You can't achieve things in that way. But sometimes it's surprising in the world how many people pray for these things, right? So these are probably maybe slightly wholesome praying compared to those other cravings and other things that people pray for. But regardless, this very wanting, this strong wanting and praying and asking is what smears our mind. Yeah. So it is including all of these cravings, all of these desires. This is the root cause, in the sense craving. I mean, delusion is what gives rise to craving, but craving keeps up that delusion. Yeah, they work together. They feed each other. Yeah. So when we're deluded, we have a sense of self. That sense of self wants things. And when we want things, our mind is full of hindrances. Yeah. Sensuality, ill will, negativity, restlessness, all of those, as I explained earlier, is kept up in our mind. So then it is in the darkness, because the hindrances are what keeps up the ignorance. In the Avijja Sutta, which I have done here before a couple of times, this is a numerical discourses, Sutta 1061. The Buddha says, he went back 91 eons. 91 eons. That's a long span. One eon is a long period of time which you can't put numbers to it. Yeah. He gives it as a simile like, if you had a big box or like a big city that is like 16 kilometers long and 16 kilometers wide and really tall, filled in mustard seeds. You know how small a mustard seed is? And you take one out every 100 years, all the mustard seeds in the city would finish, but the eon hasn't ended. That's just one eon. Imagine how many years there are. That is the time between two big bangs in the modern terms. And 91 eons, he went looking for the starting point of ignorance. Because and he said there was no discoverable beginning. The beginning of ignorance could not be discovered. He didn't say there is no beginning, but he said it is not possible, couldn't be discovered. But instead, he said ignorance has a nutriment. The ignorance stays in our mind, sustained by a nutriment. So this is where we have hope of ending ignorance. Never mind how it started, but we can end it because it is kept up with a nutriment. And the nutriment, the thing that keeps up ignorance, is this 5 hindrances. Yeah. So 5 hindrances. So in here, the Buddha just takes out just mainly stinginess, but you can understand stinginess, how it is related with when you're stingy. All 5 hindrances are kept up. You are in negligence, and that is how ignorance is kept up. So that is how, the mind is in the darkness, it's not shining, and all of that is coming from craving. Yeah, craving is what gives rise to all of these things. So jappa bilepa nang brusi. So the praying, the wishful praying. Just think about it. So stop. We have to, as Buddhists, stop praying. It's so surprising for me how many Buddhists who come to the monastery, wants to pray and pray for things. Yeah, this is not the teaching of the Buddha. This is the teaching of others. Yeah, so it's really important, and how dangerous this is. So wishful thinking is wishful praying is what keeps up. And what is the greatest fear? That's the last line. Yeah, what is the greatest fear? The greatest fear is suffering. Yeah, because we know, we have been long enough to understand how craving promises so much, delivers very little. We already know this. Craving, how much trouble we have got into because of our desires, right? I don't have to just go into detail. You can just do it yourself. You can reflect back your life and see how your desires lead you by the nose. Yeah, we are enslaved by our desires. We are like slaves. Yeah, really like slaves. And desire is like our jailer. Yeah. And we are enslaved by desire, and this is the suffering. Yeah, that is what we end up. So in the darkness, being negligent, we are covered in the hindrances, full of desires. What we are reaping is suffering. So this is the two. But don't get too depressed, because the next week we're talking about some solutions. I'm not going to go into the next two. So then we will go into the brighter side of things. But it is important to see the problem. This is our everyday mind for most people. Yeah. So it is important to recognize this. It is important to see this. It is important, because that seeing there is suffering is the first noble truth part of it, right? Knowing there is suffering. Number one. Yeah. Then finding the cause for the suffering is number two. And then ending of it and the way leading to it. So those are coming up. So this is what I would like to say for today's Dhamma talk. And much could be said, but I think this is enough. These are not really unknown subjects. These are very fundamental core teachings of the Buddha. So things that people know. My job was to just bring them out and hopefully inspire your heart to see that truth, see that reality, or at least incline your mind towards that, so that we can come to the solution, so that we can start our practice and we understand how to do it. So that's the idea. And the beautiful thing about verses is verses are to inspire our heart. Yeah, because he doesn't say in the verse itself, the Buddha didn't say all of what I said. This was just my modern commentary, right? Based on other suttas and other teachings. I just filled all of those things. In the verse itself, the Buddha only just gave those answers. But somebody who's already wise, who has quite a good understanding of things, can put all of those things together and see it in a big way. And when you start seeing this is when it starts to build the right kind of perceptions inside of us. Yeah, the perceptions that leads to greatness, not to decline, to freedom, to insights, not to bondage. Yeah, because it is with the perceptions that we are trapped. But it is also by using the right kind of perceptions, developing the right kind of perceptions, that we also get out of the problem. There was a beautiful sutta in Anguttara Nikaya 4 called Nibbana Sutta, where Venerable Ananda asked Venerable Sariputta, why are some beings here not getting enlightened yet? Right? Maybe he was asking about himself, because Ananda took a long time, right? He was thinking he was already a stream winner, but not getting enlightened. And they were like really sweet. This Venerable Sariputta was like the Dhamma general in Dhamma, right? Only second to the Buddha. Buddha is like really right-hand disciple. And Venerable Ananda was Buddha's attendant. But they were like little brothers. They really cared for each other. And even though Venerable Ananda could ask these questions to the Buddha, he sometimes often just had a chat and asked to Venerable Sariputta. And Venerable Sariputta's answer was, it is because some people are not very skilled in developing 4 types of perceptions. Yeah. So the 4 type in Pali is Hanabhaga Sanya, Visesabhaga Sanya, Titibhaga Sanya, and Nibbedika Bhaga Sanya. So Hanabhaga Sanya means perceptions that lead to deterioration. Visesabhaga Sanya means perception that leads to greatness. Titibhaga Sanya is the perceptions that leads to stability. And Nibbedika Bhaga Sanya is perceptions that leads to insight. Yeah. So it is important. So whenever we hear a verse or some teaching, the part that the Buddha says, Manasanupekkita, right? You reflect with your mind and you put it together with the previous teachings that you have heard. This is what I have tried to do as a Dhamma talk. By giving a commentary, I have been doing what I would do silently, loudly. Yeah. So you saw how we put things together. And then we start to develop the right kind of perceptions. Even, when we are faced with a difficult situation, we change the way we perceive, how we attend, how we perceive, we change. So with that, the whole thing starts to change. Our whole trajectory changes. So really important to understand these things. Again, I spoke a little bit more, but now I can open up for questions, both from people in the room or people on the Zoom.
Do you think the Buddha's response to not want to go into rituals and prayings because of the time that he lived and the Brahmins that was there?
Yeah. Yeah.
strong tradition.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, most likely. And it is not only there, right? Even here, right now. So that question that asked, I don't know whether you heard, was that someone here asked the question why the Buddha's teaching, why he was discouraging rituals and praying and things. Was it because of the time that he was in and what was happening in other religions? So even he was born as a into the Brahmanical society, that there was a lot of ritual and praying. And the answer is probably yes. And this is not only true those days, also present, right? In the modern day, also a lot of the religions and even a lot of the Buddhists themselves, because there is a need. People, when they're suffering, they're constantly searching, asking, wanting help from somebody, and thinking that you can get help by performing some ritual. This is kind of because this is easier to do rather than developing our mind, right? It takes a much more longer time to develop and all that and come to. It's much easier if you can just do some ritual, and it's much easier to do, and thinking that that would bring some benefit. And there was this big sacrifice. Those suttas are coming. In fact, there are some suttas dedicated. Some of these Brahmin students ask precisely that. What happens to these people who did these great, perfect sacrifices? Did they go to the other shore? And it's so sad when the Buddha says no. And then they ask, if they didn't, then who did? I will come to that sutta later. One of the students asked this question, yeah. Yeah, so it is really interesting to understand it is okay to do these things. It's not that rituals and praying has no place, but if it is done in the right way, like sometimes a certain small ritual can just uplift your mind depending on how you relate to it. Yeah, just lighting a candle, or making some offerings, or doing some little thing sort of sets the mind in the right place. And something like that, that is okay, because you understand why you do it is to sort of, make a break, because maybe you just come from work, some from all kinds of yucky kind of states of mind, and you use a small little ritual to sort of make a break, to, like a stepping stone to the other side. That is okay. That sort of settles your mind. So this is also where the chanting comes in. You do a little bit of chanting, so the mind sort of comes into a different space. So if you do ritual in that way, that is okay. But the difficulty is if you just do ritual thinking that doing that ritual will purify your mind and get you enlightened. That is the problem. Apart from that, it is not an issue to do some ritual. But praying, well, not quite praying and asking for things, but chanting, chanting the teachings and reflecting on them probably is okay. Or aspirations, various good, wholesome aspirations. It's not kind of a prayer, but it is kind of an aspiration. So that is probably okay. In fact, even recommended probably to aspire to wholesome goals, to aspire to meditate, to aspire for enlightenment. That is okay, that kind of chanda, but it's not quite praying. Yeah. Yes. Okay, Varshani says, Ajahn, is there a case where wise ignorance sometimes protect peace more effectively? Okay, so this is the saying, ignorance is bliss. It's quite different to avidya, as the Buddha says, yeah. So it is, ignorance and wisdom don't go together, yeah. It's the opposites. So it's not wise ignorance, it's delusion, yeah. So not knowing, yeah. There's two things, moha and avidya, also slightly different. So ignorance is that because you didn't know something, you escaped some trouble, but that's just temporarily escape. Yeah, it's not that real thing. So that's that very, very common saying, ignorance is bliss, because you don't know anything. That's like the little children, like little children don't have any issues with all the political or financial problems happening in the world, right? Because they're ignorant about it. They are playing, having a jolly good time, even if there's a big war happening outside, because they don't know. So this is that idea of ignorance is bliss. But is that a solution for them? It is not. Yeah. So that is why. So this is, I think, what you are referring to. So I think you can understand that kind of thing. So there is no such thing called wise ignorance.